Have you ever noticed how some deaths stop the world and others barely make a whisper? How some lives get documentaries, candlelight vigils, breaking news, banners, and others get a number at the bottom of the screen, and then we scroll. I've been sitting with that feeling all week because I tried to film something about the people killed during the immigration enforcement in the United States recently, and I couldn't. I kept starting, stopping, deleting, not because I didn't care, because I did care. And I didn't understand why it felt so heavy. 2 lives lost, families grieving, protests in the streets, people saying their names. And that's right, that's human. But something inside me kept whispering, why does the world only seem to feel this loudly when it happens in the West? My name is Noreen, and this is Real Africa Stories. And today, this one's personal. Let me try to explain this in the best way I know how. Because this isn't politics. It's not even really history. It's about empathy and who we decide deserves it. This past year in the US, more than 30 people died in ICE custody. 30. The highest number in almost 2 decades. Some were Latino, some were migrants, some were elderly, some barely made the news. Even there, not every life got equal coverage. And while I was watching all that unfold, my mind kept drifting somewhere else, back home, back to Africa. Because this kind of grief, it isn't new to us. We've been living with it for years, only without the cameras. So I grew up in Nairobi, Kenya. I'm talking 70s and 80s. Watching the news was just part of our daily routine. My mum was very political, very aware, always following campaigns and what was happening in the world. So every evening the TV went on. We'd watch the local news first, if you know, Voice of Kenya, VOK, and then we'd watch the international news. And somehow whatever was happening in the West, it felt bigger, more important. America mattered, Europe mattered, their elections, their wars, their leaders. They got the long discussions, the experts, the maps. Back then, the way the news was presented made it feel like the West was where history happened, where decisions were made. And we absorbed that without even noticing. Looking back now, I sometimes think maybe that was a kind of a quiet conditioning, a colonial mentality we didn't realize we were carrying. Like we were being taught whose lives counted more and whose lives just faded into the background. It's only as an adult that I started asking, wait, what about us? Didn't those lives matter too? Let's talk about Sudan. Right now, millions of people are displaced. Families sleeping by roadsides, children going hungry, aid agencies warning about famine, tens of thousands killed. And still, gold leaves the country every single day. Resources out, blood stays. Have you ever heard of Allah Salah? The young woman in white standing on top of a car, leading chants during the revolution. Fearless, a symbol of hope. Or Mohammed Matar. 26 years old, shot during protests, remembered for a moment, then forgotten. When was the last time Sudan led the news cycle? Exactly. Now, the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Over 6 million people dead over the years because of the conflict and its aftermath. 6 million. But numbers make us numb. So let's talk names. Floribert Chebeya, a human rights activist, abducted and murdered after criticizing the police. Danny Mukwege.
Des femmes est devenu un véritable champ de bataille et le viol est utilisé comme une arme de guerre.
A doctor who has spent his life repairing the bodies of women brutalized by war. He won the Nobel Peace Prize. And still, most people don't know his name. Meanwhile, the cobalt and the coltan from Congo power our phones and laptops. We benefit every day, but we don't sit with the cost.
Ilinyesha ikisha meza nyesha ndio mporomoko sasa ikitoka ikipiga watu wote wakakufa. Wamoja walikuwa katika chini ya shimo, wamoja walitoka, wengine wakapitia ndani pasha kufa. Wengi wangali ndani, wangali mle ndani, hawajatoka, wangali tumo.
Then Mozambique, nearly 1 million people displaced in Cabo Delgado. Families running with nothing but a plastic bag of clothes. Have you ever heard of Anastasio Matavele? An election observer, not fighting, just watching the vote, shot dead, barely a headline. Uganda, Tanzania. Election seasons there can be dangerous. People detained, beaten, silenced. Robert Chagulanyi, also known as Bobby Wine, musician turned politician, arrested again and again, and if I'm not wrong, currently still in hiding. He's still standing.
Wine, also known as Robert Chagulanyi, is in hiding after security forces raided his home last Friday.
How are you? How's your family?
I'm alive. I don't know how my family is. To be in my home, I've not changed my clothes in days. I want to be home. I want to be free. I want to take care of my people. But the military and police have taken over my home.
Tundu Lissu, shot 16 times, survived. These aren't issues, they're people. And then Libya, years of collapse, militias, detention centres, families trapped between chaos and survival. But when Libya is mentioned, it's just instability, never faces. Never names. And this is what unsettles me most. Because when something happens in America, we know the names. We say the names. We post the names. We light candles. But let me ask you something. Do you know these names? Albert Omondi Ojwang from Kenya, a young teacher and blogger arrested after criticizing the police, later found dead in custody, 30 years old. Ken Saro-Wiwa from Nigeria, an environmental activist who spoke out against oil pollution executed by the state. Thomas Sankara from Burkina Faso.
Pas dans un esprit belliqueux, belliciste. Ceci pour éviter que nous n'allions individuellement nous faire assassiner. Si le Burkina Faso tout seul refuse de payer la dette, je ne serai pas là à la prochaine conférence. Par contre, avec le soutien de tous, dont j'ai besoin. Et quand nous disons que la dette ne saurait être payée, ce n'est point que nous sommes contre la morale, la dignité, le respect de la parole. Parce que nous estimons que nous n'avons pas la même morale que les autres. Entre le riche et le pauvre, il n'y a pas la même morale. La Bible, le Coran, ne peut pas servir de la même manière celui qui exploite le peuple et celui qui est exploité. Il faudrait alors qu'il y ait 2 éditions de la Bible et 2 éditions du Coran. Chers frères, avec le soutien de tous, nous pourrons faire de la paix chez nous. Nous pourrons également utiliser ces immenses potentialités pour développer l'Afrique, parce que notre sol, notre sous-sol sont riches. Nous avons suffisamment de bras et nous avons un marché immense, très vaste, du nord au sud, de l'est à l'ouest. Nous avons suffisamment de capacités intellectuelles pour créer, ou tout au moins prendre la technologie et la science partout où nous pourrons les trouver. Monsieur le Président, faisons en sorte que nous mettions au point ce front uni d'Addis Abeba contre la dette. Faisons en sorte que ce soit à partir d'Addis Abeba que nous décidions de limiter la course aux armements entre pays faibles et pauvres. Les gourdins et les coutelas que nous achetons sont inutiles. Faisons en sorte également que le marché africain soit le marché des Africains. Produire en Afrique, transformer en Afrique et consommer en Afrique. Produisons ce dont nous avons besoin et consommons ce que nous produisons au lieu d'importer. Le Burkina Faso est venu vous exposer ici la cotonnade produite au Burkina Faso, tissée au Burkina Faso, cousue au Burkina Faso pour habiller les Burkinabés. Ma délégation et moi-même, nous sommes habillés par nos tisserands, nos paysans. Il n'y a pas un seul fil qui vienne de l'Europe ou de l'Amérique. Je ne fais pas un défilé de mode, mais je voudrais simplement dire que nous devons accepter de vivre africain. C'est la seule façon de vivre libre et de vivre digne. Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président. La patrie ou la mort, nous vaincrons.
A president who tried to fight corruption and empower ordinary people, assassinated at 37. Chris Hani from South Africa. An anti-apartheid leader shot in his driveway during the transition to democracy. Norbert Zongo from Burkina Faso. A journalist investigating corruption found burned alive in his car. Fikile Nshangasi from South Africa. A grandmother and activist killed in her own home for opposing a mining deal. Agnes Tirop from Kenya. A world-class athlete, young, full of promise, killed in what should have been the safety of her home. Aminata Traore from Mali. A writer and activist challenging corruption and foreign exploitation. Yet most people outside Africa have never even heard her name. Do you know their faces? Do you know their stories? Or did the world just move on? Because a mother crying in Khartoum sounds exactly like a mother crying in Minneapolis. Grief doesn't have an accent. Pain doesn't carry a passport. And maybe that's why this has been sitting so heavy on my heart. Because once you start seeing the names, you can't unsee them. You can't scroll the same way again. So this video is simple. It's me choosing to say their names, choosing to remember. Because a life is a life, anywhere. And empathy shouldn't stop at borders. This is the Africa you're not shown, but I'm here to show you.